Fern Linzinger and Rachael Kroth. Fern develops and designs display and environmental components for permanent, temporary, and traveling exhibitions as Cincinnati Museum Center's lead exhibit designer. Very cool. She is a designer intent on revealing a story through the way a guest engages with a space. And Rachael creates built environments to celebrate the sciences and history while educating visitors. Most recently, Rachael has focused on reviving many of the beloved exhibits unique to the Museum Center that were protected during the Union Terminal's restoration. Here they are with It's Not Spelunking, the correct term is caving, and other lessons from updating a fan favorite exhibit. Fern and Rachael, take it away.
Hey, Fern, you have to unmute.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Thank you for the introduction. And I'm Fern, one of the exhibit designers at the Museum Center. And as you see here, this is Union Terminal, the Art Deco train station that was completed in 1933. And after the era of passenger trains and various past uses, a few institutions came together from around the city to open in the building as the Museum Center in 1990. And in 2014, an approved tax levy quickly spurred a very involved restoration process where construction began in July of 2016 and was completed the fall of 2018. So housed within Union Terminal is Cincinnati Museum Center, which is a consortium of the Cincinnati History Museum, the Duke Energy Children's Museum, the Museum of Natural History and Science, an OmniMax Theater, and the Cincinnati History Library and Archives. It is also now home to the Holocaust and Humanities Center as well. So during this time of restoration, we had the opportunity to work from a blank slate in many galleries. If we could switch to the next slide. The cave was not one of them. There are certain exhibits that remained sheltered in place during construction that were fan favorites, where we had to approach with care concerning what the ingrained visitor expectations were of the exhibit, but also we wanted to make it fresh and updated. So we really wanted to preserve the appeal in people's memories and create what created that sense of nostalgia. This version obviously opened in 1990. So during the time that we were in the conceptual phase, an article was published in WCPO that reflected even to a time when the cave exhibit was located in the old Natural History Museum on Gilbert Avenue. Next slide, please. One visitor is quoted stating that the glass bridge was amazing, scared the daylights out of me as a kid, but no trip was complete without it, and we loved the caves. So much that even to this day, our floor staff would get questioned about what happened to the glass bridge. And we did investigate what it would take to incorporate that into our redesign. The authenticity of the environmental design is one thing that we didn't want to lose. So we love having this immersive experience through all the sights and sounds of running water, cooler temperatures, and the textures of the cave walls. So next slide. The original hand-drafted drawings of this exhibit show the textures of the built cave. And our built cave was actually cast from molds of actual limestone caves in the region. So we often have visitors ask, how did they build this building around a cave? So we strive to retain and add to the iconic aspects of what the cave was, and found our investment of redesign was really best focused on the entry and exit experience. So this space had evolved over time. And next slide, you see images of the bat flight cage or the batting cage, as well as the entrance and exit of the immersive cave before the museum closed for renovations. So if you're interested, there are still walkthrough views available of the pre-restoration museum through Google Street View if you want to go exploring. So existing design strove to control the flow in and out of the experience. It contained decoration and a style evolution, so there wasn't really a consistent look or message. And it featured experiencing the cave with a beginner and advanced trail. So here you see the demolition plan, and it shows moving away from this cattle chute style flow and really opened that space up. And upon redesign, the entry was centralized around a different model for our bat flight design, where we have a central column in this caged area that allows the bats to have a continuous flight path around when they're having the educational talks. Yeah, so here you can see just some development sketches of how we and where we might position the bat flight cage. So we worked as an internal collaborative team across the museum involving curators, expert cavers, educators, live animal caretakers, floor staff, and the exhibit staff. And the result of this process was really to utilize a more open floor plan where you can see both the entrance and exit from the immersive cave from a centralized point. So if you go to the next slide, I think. Yeah, so this is showing the bat flight area looking into this inner space. And next slide. Here you can see kind of one of the views toward the entrance. So having this centralized point where you can be able to watch a bat flight presentation, take a break, or take in content from the exhibit. And Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel, and I joined the exhibits team at the museum in the middle, almost wrapping up the restoration. So much of the design for the cave exhibit was done, and I kind of picked it up at the end of schematic design, carried it through design development and construction, working with our in-house team, as well as collaborating with many outside creatives. The main goal of our museum and many museums is to be stewards of objects in our collections, and part of exhibit design is to display these objects while being educational and entertaining for all of our guests. When we were designing the cave exhibitry, beyond just the normal standards of displaying objects such as temperature and light control, we also had to take into the account that we were going to be displaying live animals. So if we go to the next slide, one more, please. So this is showing the final build of the bat flight area. So I worked closely with animal resources, developing what materials to use for this area. So the floor is a durable material that can be cleaned easily in case there's any messes. And the netting is specific for bats. You can also see in this view, there are some tanks and aquariums, and we had to accompany some clearances for light and airflow, as well as ease of access to the tanks for regular maintenance by the live animal caretakers. So beyond just incorporating all of the live animals, the museum also, we strive to be accessible for all guests with varying disabilities. So when the cave was originally designed in the early 90s, as Fern mentioned, the upper and lower trails were originally demarked as beginner and advanced. So the lower trail has a series of steps and many stepping stones crossing over water, as well as tight crawl throughs. And the upper trail, which has always been ADA accessible, in the recent design, we aim to make these experiences more equal. So the upper trail, we removed glass barriers and we installed guardrails at many of the overlooks. And this allowed guests to have the same experience as on the lower trail, with similar sounds and views of a lot of the waterfalls and water features. We also opened up many of the inset display cases on both of the trails and added in objects that are safe for touch. So you will see a wood rat and a replica of gypsum. Great. So going beyond the immersive cave experience and the typical exhibit design of displaying objects alongside graphics, we work to create more robust experiences with the addition of both digital and analog components as a way to kind of get and retain the attention of a wide range of guests. So we worked closely with Landor, a local graphic design firm, to create 2 digital animations of how caves are formed, which are beautiful. We also worked with an Italian artist who recreates scientific imagery, and it became a tactile lenticular where visitors can go up and switch between the front and back and see the differences in the how creatures adapt above and below the ground. We also included a bronze model by James Herman, who's a local sculptor. And this model shows the network of caves at Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky. Not only is it visually stunning on its own, but it also provides tactile information for those who are visually impaired. Throughout the whole museum and this exhibit, anytime we have any sort of touch interactive, we include a Braille translation, and we work with Clovernook Center for the Blind and Visually Impaired to create those. So beyond just incorporating all of the accessibility needs and all of our live animal and object needs, one of the museum's main design goals in any exhibit is to design for accessibility and inclusivity. And in focusing on this, I think we've created really well-rounded and much better experiences for all of our guests. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you come and visit the museum and the cave and lots of other new exhibits that we're developing.
Thank you both very much. I apologize, Fern Linzinger and Rachael Kroth. Thank you both for that. I apologize for trying to skip you before, but I'm glad we didn't, because as soon as you mentioned the glass bridge, I remembered what it felt like going over that for the first time. So I'm glad that you're creating an inclusive experience for other abled people to be able to enjoy different aspects of caving as well, because it's not spelunking, as we've learned. So thank you both for sharing that. That's delightful.